Hey everybody, Naturalist Paul out at Wood Lake Nature Center. Today we're going to be talking about herons and egrets. In Minnesota we see about half the species you can find in the whole country, 10 in total here. 3 right here at Wood Lake, the great blue heron, the great egret, the all-white one, and then a shorter one called a green heron. Other parts of Richfield you might find black-crowned night herons, and throughout the state, every now and again, you'll find things like American bitterns, least bitterns, which was just seen in Richfield as well, but also cattle egrets and little blue herons and the yellow-crowned night heron. So quite a few. Some are pretty random, but some are right here. We're going to see quite a bit, and that's what we're going to focus on today. The great blue heron and the great egret have different names, but they're in the same genus. They're very closely related. Egret means plume or silver heron or brush, and it's from French. And it has to do with those really pretty feathers on the back of their head, which people love to wear and use in clothing quite a bit. And the great blue heron is just a different color, the darker gray, sort of a bluish. They're very similar in size and very similar in the way that they behave. They nest in trees, in colonies, and so a lot of the trees will be flooded or close to water, and there'll be quite a few of them in those nests. And you'll also see cormorants sometimes too. And the egrets are going to be doing the same thing, and they hunt very similar. They have a long beak, which allows them to stab or grab onto fish, and they can also get through turtle shells with those beaks, which isn't fun to think about, but they got to eat something, right? The smaller green herons are going to nest a little more solitary on their own, but they're also going to be in trees. You might think a big, tall bird like this, about 4 feet tall, big 6, 7 inch or 7 foot wingspan, might be nesting on the ground, but they actually nest in trees. The Minnesota River Valley, if you're driving on the bridge on 494, you can often see them in some of those trees along the shore that are flooded. Really, really neat birds. We almost lost these birds back in the late 1800s, early 1900s for that. Remember I mentioned the plumes. These feathers right up here by their head are the ones that were very, very prized by a lot of the milliners that were making different fashion items. And there was no regulation until the early 1900s, and people started to realize these beautiful birds were disappearing. So fortunately, they're still around. And if you come to Wood Lake, the chances of you not seeing one are pretty slim during the summer. They're quite active, and they're really quite a good chance of seeing one from our boardwalk. So if you get a chance to come over, take a walk across the boardwalk and take a look for one of these great blue herons or the all-white great egrets. Thanks. Hope you can come out soon.
Hello, Naturalist Bree here at Wood Lake Nature Center, and to go along with Paul's Herons and Egrets creature feature today, we have an awesome story called She's Wearing a Dead Bird on Her Head by Catherine Lastley. It's a really fun book with some great illustrations, so we hope that you enjoy. Harriet Hemingway was a very proper Boston lady. She never talked with her mouth full, but one day she almost did. Standing by the bay window in her parlor, she had just bitten into a jam cookie when her eyes sprang open in dismay. She gasped, leaned forward, swallowed, then turned to her parlor maid. "She is wearing a dead bird on her head." Feathers on ladies' hats were becoming more and more popular. At first, hats had been decorated with just feathers, and then designers began to add pairs of wings. But this woman had an entire bird perched on top of her hat. Harriet squinted her eyes as a lady of fashion walked proudly by. "Arctic tern, I believe," whispered Harriet. "Looks ready to fly away," said the parlor maid. "It won't," Harriet repeated sadly. Harriet felt that she had to do something. Huge populations of birds, from egrets to pheasants to owls to warblers, were being slaughtered for hat decoration. None were spared, not even pigeons. But what could she do? Women in 1896 had very little power. They could not vote, and many had husbands who did not allow them to make decisions for themselves. Some women were not even allowed to read newspapers. Harriet's husband, Augustus, did not treat her this way. But she She and other women like her wanted to change things for all women, and she wanted to do something for the birds. Fashion was killing birds as well as killing women's chances to have the right to vote and be listened to. For who wouldn't listen to a woman with a dead bird on her head? And if the senseless slaughter for a silly fashion was not stopped, in a few years the birds with the prettiest feathers would all be dead, gone forever, extinct. I must call my cousin Nina, Harriet said grimly. Click, 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 click. The heels of Miss Nina's Hall's high but toned shoes beat a quick rhythm against the bricks of the sidewalk. Her blue eyes were bright as they searched the bare limbs of the trees that lined the avenue, from the yellow finches that appeared like spots of glittering gold on this gray winter's day. Their quick golden flight swelled her heart. Click, click, click. She could not be late for tea at Harriet's. This was too important. Click, click, click. Miss Hall's feet froze in their tracks. Straight ahead there was indeed a pair of golden wings, but they had neither a head nor a body attached. They were pinned instead to the crown of a lady's hat, and on the brim was a swirl of snowy egret feathers. Revolting! The single word rumbled down the Commonwealth Avenue as noisily as the cannonball loosed on the shipwreck's deck. Me? The fashionable lady squeaked with dismay. You are a heartless creature. That a bird should be slaughtered just to make you feel pretty. Yuck! Mina made a scalding sound deep in the back of her throat. When Mina stormed into the parlor, Harriet was puffing tea. Well, Harriet, Mina exclaimed as she pulled off her felt cap, from Arlington Street to Clarendon, 3 egrets, 3 marabou, 2 grebes, 1 goldfinch, and, Mina paused. Her cousin waited nervously, the teacup chattering on the saucer she was holding. A hummingbird! Oh no, Mina! Yes, Harriet, perched in the full flight on a bunch of silk roses with a veil. Disgusting! Revolting! Nauseating! Vile! The words flew through the air like red-hot cinders. Well, let's get down to business, Mina said. Do you have the book? Yes, right here. Harriet Hemingway walked over to the shelf in the parlor and took down a large blue volume. The words Boston Social Register were written across the cover in golden letters. The book was a list of the grandest families in Boston. They opened the book, and with pencils in hand, they began to scan the list of families, starting with A. Mrs. Appleton, quite fashionable. Indeed, a fowl with a few warbler feathers at tea last week. Bancroft, marabou fan in a hat to match the open opera. Finally, they got to D. Miss Zacharias. Egrets and warblers with a touch of flamingo, I do believe, luncheon at the Somerset Hotel. Dear, dear, Mina moaned and sipped the last of her tea. What shall we do? Well, Harriet scratched her head. We have garden club and history club. Why not form a bird club? Not to just watch birds, no, but to protect them and stop the senseless murdering for fashion. What a wonderful idea, said Mina. Let's do it. Let's start a club for the birds. Right then, they began to write letters to the Boston ladies of the fashion who wore the plumage of birds, imploring them to put aside the fancy hats with the swirls of owl feathers, breast of grebes, wings of hummingbirds, and plumes of egrets, and instead join a society dedicated to protecting all the birds. This was the first informal meeting of the Audubon Society, named after a man they admired, John Audubon, the famous painter of birds. Harriet and Nina were very persuasive. They convinced women not only that killing birds was wrong, but that birds as hat decorations made women look silly. Soon, many of the fashionable ladies of Boston to whom they had written letters did join the society. For the club to accomplish its goals, however, Harriet and Nina knew it also needed men, smart, powerful men who could vote and go into public places like the state legislatures and the halls of Congress in Washington, D.C. So they asked lawyers and doctors and sportsmen and bird experts to join too. At the second meeting of the Audubon Society, Harriet and Nina and the new members made up rules for the club. "I think," said one gentleman, "there should be an exception made for ducks." "What kind of exception?" Harriet asked. "We want to hunt them," replied another gentleman. "Rules are rules," fumed Nina. "Sportsmen aren't special," another woman said, and stamped her foot. The woman won. There would be no killing of ducks or game birds. Then all the members devised a plan to get the word out on birds to everyone, and the bird hat campaign of the Audubon Society began in earnest. They decided to bring their cause to the children of the state of Massachusetts. So into the schools they went, Nina, Harriet, and other members of the society. In Florida, heaps of birds, stripped of their feathers, are left dying on the ground, Harriet told one class of children, holding up a photograph of a pile of dead egrets. "What happened to their babies? The ones left in the nest?" a student asked. "The ones that are too young to fly are left to die. So you see, we need your help. The birds need your help to protect them against the plume hunters and the hat makers. Please join our club." Soon there were over 10,000 junior members of the Audubon Society in the state of Massachusetts. And Audubon societies were formed in other states. More children joined. The members in Boston continued to grow, and the meetings were always lively. "The orange groves in Florida this year are suffering because there are too many dead hummingbirds on hats and not enough of them in groves to eat the pests that spoil the fruit," said Mrs. Harriet Richards, the secretary of the society. "Let's get the farmers on our side. Send out letters," Nina said. "Do not have some more apple pie, or do have some more apple pie," Harriet offered, "and be happy it's not songbird pie, a specialty in some places, I'm told." All the members stopped eating and looked at the apple pie on their plates. "Ghastly," whispered Mr. William Brewster, and for one awful minute they all imagined songbirds instead of apples in their pies. "Warblers, nightingales, robins. I think," said Nina, slowly setting down her plate, "we'd better start getting some laws passed." In the club everywhere was equal. Everybody was equal. The women and the men of the society wrote up their ideas together and then sent the gentlemen to the top to the legislators in the State House and to members of Congress in Washington, D.C. to press for the passage of laws to save the birds. They were successful. An act was passed in 1903 to protect herons and bitterns, two popular hat birds from the hat makers, forbidding them to sell, display, or possess the feathers. In 1904, there was another victory when a law was passed to protect shore, marsh, and beach birds. Soon, there were laws against hunting birds during their breeding season, and then a federal law was passed preventing the importation of feathers from Europe and the tropics for hats. The word about birds had spread all the way to England, where Queen Victoria had announced that she would never again wear a feather for fashion. But Nina and Harriet were still far from happy. "That's good. What good is a law if it isn't enforced?" Nina moaned one day as she stood looking out the window at a woman passing by with a pheasant wing breaking the air above her head. "You can't arrest the lady for wearing a hat, but you can arrest the supplier of the feather," Harriet said. She tapped her head lightly as if to give a little jolt to her brains. "There are rumors about secret feather warehouses," she spoke softly. "I think we should make a few inquiries." So the two ladies, with Harriet's husband, Augustus, took the train to New York City, where they were not so well known. They got as gussied up as two Boston ladies who loved birds and hated fashion could manage. They sashayed down Fifth Avenue in fancy dresses and wore elaborate hats with streamers and ribbons, but no feathers. Into the fanciest hat stores the two cousins and Augustine Hemingway pranced. "I want to buy my wife and dear cousin each a hat, a feathered hat," Augustus announced. The salespeople began fluttering around the preposterous-looking threesome. "What will it be, mesdames? Egrets or doves? A dear little coach covered with an owl feather, or this broad-brimmed hat with the Arctic tern? It is not spectacular on the blue felt, just as it is a plunging into the sea." The two ladies swallowed their disgusting and muffled their anger. After all, there was more important things at stake. By the end of the shopping expedition, they, at last, had to buy 2 hats, but they also had the name of the feather supplier with a warehouse in Baltimore, where millions of dead birds and tons of plumes were stored. With this information, they went directly to authorities. Soon after, on a rainy May day, the cousins sat sipping tea. Harriet had just bitten into a crisp wafer when, like a tidal wave, Augustus burst into the parlor. "Ladies!" He held a newspaper aloft in his hands. "You won!" "We what?" said Nina. She and Harriet held their breath. "Won, dear cousin and dear wife. 26,000 illegal gold skins destined for hats of fashion were seized last night from the Baltimore warehouse. They have shut it down, taken the skins, and arrested the owner." Augustus paused. His rain-slicked face beamed with pride. "The law has been enforced." Mina looked at her cousin. "Harriet, we won!" But Harriet said nothing, for Harriet Hemingway never spoke with her mouth full, even when she won. We hope that you enjoyed this story, and I think it's pretty amazing and powerful how women, through their choice in protecting birds and their choice of not choosing high fashion, was able to also protect birds and allow themselves to vote and even get kids involved. So we hope you enjoyed this story, and stay tuned for more programming to come. Thank you.